Welcome to Kicking It Local, the podcast all about the football community right here in South Australia. I'm your host, Johnny Kecko, and this week it's a big week in South Australian football. It's the first South Australian derby of its kind in a national competitive match in the Australia Cup. We've seen it before with Adelaide United taking on Adelaide Olympic, but this one's the next level. Adelaide City taking on Adelaide United, the two most successful clubs in South Australian history on the national stage, and one person who's played for both clubs and now the head coach of Adelaide United A-League men's side. Carl Veart is joining me today in a special episode of Kicking It Local, mate. Thank you so much for joining me, Carl.
Not a problem. Thanks for having me.
It's a massive game, as I just mentioned, for the South Australian football fans. Two of the most successful sides on the national stage. You were there for Adelaide United's inaugural season in the NSL and A-League, and the first goal scorer for both of those times. But you're also there for Adelaide City back in the early 90s, where you won NSL championships and the NSL Cup as well. What's this fixture mean to you to be able to play in this first ever derby between the two sides?
Oh, look, it's the Adelaide United have got a great history in the Australian Cup, and it's an important stepping stone for our season, leading into our season for the A-League. So I suppose it adds a little bit more spice to it and a little bit more special coming up against Adelaide City, as you said. One of the greatest clubs in the history of Australian soccer.
Yep, it's going to be huge. A lot of fans that grew up with Adelaide City and now Adelaide United fans have kind of got a choice to make on Wednesday night because they don't know what team to go for, if they want to go for their old club, a local team, or Adelaide United. So it's a big decision for a lot of football fans at the moment.
Yeah, look, it would be great to have a lot of fans come to the game and support both teams. It would be, I suppose, something a little bit different for our players to be playing in their home state and having, against another team that will have quite a bit of support against them.
Have you had a chance to speak to anyone at Adelaide City since finding out the fixture?
Just my old, the old mates I used to play with. We've had a bit of a chat about it, but no one that's involved at the club at the present day, no.
Going back to when you were back there in the early 90s, you was a very successful time for Adelaide City. You won 2 NSL championships and also an NSL Cup while you were there. What were those memories like for you back in those playing days?
Yeah, look, I had got great memories of that early 90s team. We had a lot of success, not just there, but most of us were teammates with the Socceroos as well. So there was great memories looking back there. We, as I said, we had some great players and most really one of the best coaches that I ever played under, and Zoran Matić as well. That's taught me a lot as a player and as a person as well.
Would you say those days shaped you as a coach for the way you are now with Adelaide United?
Yeah, most definitely. As I said, Zoran had a huge influence on me as a player, and also I have a lot of I suppose some of his traits that he taught me back there that I'm instilling in my playing style as well.
What are some of those traits that you picked up from Zoran Matić that still live through your coaching style now with the Reds?
Yeah, look, Zoran, even though we had a good side, we had to work extremely hard, and we had to be humble, and it was very important for him that that we played, a good brand of football as well. He had a certain way that he wanted us to play, and he was very strict on that. And I have a bit of a brand of football that I want to play with my team. I don't have put as many restrictions on the players like Zoran did in that time, but I still have a lot of respect for and the way that he taught me and the way that he set his teams up to play.
Well, he obviously had a really good style of coaching because he produced a lot of really good players back in those days from Adelaide City. And also one player that also played alongside you who's a very big character in the local game now as a coach for White City. And he's also your assistant coach last season in 2021 as an interim assistant coach for you guys at Adelaide United. Damian Mori, big character in the local game. What was it like playing alongside him back in those days?
Yeah, it was fantastic. We became great friends, and I suppose I was influential in bringing him from Melbourne to Adelaide City because we were such good friends, and we've kept that friendship going right through. And Damian was a fantastic player, a great goal scorer. He had that knack of knowing where the goals were. And credit to Damian, he's worked extremely hard and coaching. He's given a lot to the local league here, and I thought, he did an exceptional job for us last year when he came in at late notice and helped me at the end of last season.
And yeah, well, it was a really good inclusion having him there, and also seeing how successful he is in the local game. Everyone wanted to see him in an A-League club, and we think that he can do that. But yourself, seeing him from where he was when you played alongside him, now as a coach, how you think how far has he come as a coach from where he was as a player back in those days with you?
Yeah, look, Damian was, as a player, was very driven. Knew what he wanted. Very similar to the Zoran style, and I think you can see that in the way his teams play as well. They're very structured very well defensively, very difficult sides to break down. And again, he expects his teams to work extremely hard. I think, I've watched a lot of his teams play over the course of the local NPL seasons, and you can always say that his team were always the fittest team in the league.
There's a video I saw online of you two back in those days. I think you're in your early 20s. He was interviewing all the players and interviewing yourself as well. And he was a bit of a jokester in this video. And is that what he was always like off the pitch? I think he called you Thomas in there as well.
Yeah. Look, I say we had great friendship, and we still have a great friendship. And Damian was, a little bit of a character, very loud. He was always sort of centre of attention. He liked the attention, and I suppose that's why he was such a great goal scorer, because that's the way he was. He demanded that he, get the ball all the time when you played with him as well.
Now, well, has he spoken to you since finding out this fixture? I know he's not involved with Adelaide City anymore, but obviously he was with you at Adelaide United. Has he? Have you spoken to him about this big fixture coming up?
Yes, most definitely. I've picked his brain on Adelaide City, because he's played against them a few times this year. So I've got a lot of input from him on what to expect from Adelaide City on Wednesday night.
It's going to be a big game, and you've talked about Damian Mori, but you've played with a lot of big players at Adelaide City back in your time there. What was one of the standout players that you had alongside you at Adelaide City?
Look, I suppose both the Vidmar boys were high quality, but I suppose the main player that sort of sticks out to everyone's mind is Milan Ivanovic. He was so cool and so casual as a player, and always was in the right place at the right time, and his ability on the ball to bring the ball out of the defence and go through the lines was exceptional.
He is a great player, Milan Ivanovic. So you went overseas to England after leaving Adelaide City, and you had a very good career over there, which you ended up playing in an FA Cup game, which kicked out Arsenal in the FA Cup in 1995-96 campaign. What was that game like for you to be involved in such a historic cup competition in the world?
Yeah, look, as you say, the FA Cup in England is most probably the biggest cup competition in the world football. Everyone knows about the FA Cup, especially back then. As a kid growing up, that was the living in Australia. That was the main game every year that you watched was the FA Cup. So it had a great history, and to be able to play in that tournament and to do well and score goals in that tournament, it was I feel very, very lucky to have done that. To be part of that competition and to do well.
And that Arsenal game I mentioned where you knocked them out, you scored the only goal in that third round win. What was that like to score against Arsenal back then?
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, as you say, at the time they were in the Premier League and we were in the Championship at Sheffield United. It was a big night at Bramall Lane, and it was a full stadium. And to knock out, one of the heavyweights, it was a great feeling, and to have scored the goal, it was, as you say, sometimes that's what, as a young player, that's what you dream of.
Absolutely. And then you made your way back to Adelaide, where you saw yourself back at Adelaide City, but you were there for another 172 games. Then you made your way to Adelaide United because Adelaide City fell out of the NSL. They departed and went back to the local leagues, which they now still are in. But Adelaide United were formed, and you joined them in their first season in the NSL, which ended up being the last season of the NSL before the A-League came around. What was it like for you to join a new club in Adelaide and start that new journey with them. What was that feeling like being a part of that?
Yeah, it was an exciting time, and I think the exciting time when Adelaide United was formed was how the locals, state, everyone in football in South Australia got behind Adelaide United, and it was a one team for the whole state. Whereas Adelaide City was seen as Adelaide City, and it had a lot of history with West Adelaide and a lot of the other local sides. So the way Adelaide United formed, it was like all the clubs had a part of it. So and we got great support that first year. And that first game at High Stadium was, one of my great highlights in my whole career, because it was just such a fantastic night for football in South Australia.
Yeah, that was a massive night on in South Australian football, as you said. But what's the main thing that still sticks in your mind from that night? Because I remember watching the crowd, the fireworks, everything going on. It was unbelievable. What's one thing that sticks out of in your mind from that night?
Just the crowd, to have a sellout for the first game, and to have all that support of everyone in South Australia getting behind the team, and the noise they made that night, and for the whole season they got behind the team. It was fantastic, and I don't think we've ever, I'd love for the club to get back to that support that we had back in that year one.
Let's hope so. Hopefully we'll get to that point again. But and then hopefully this game here is a turning point as well with Adelaide City, Adelaide United. Let's get to the main game. You've spoken about your time at Adelaide United and Adelaide City, but now they're both coming together for this one big clash in the Australia Cup. And it's going to be at a little brand new stadium, which is the Service FM Stadium in Gepps Cross, Football South Australia's headquarters. What's the vibe been around the club with all the players getting ready for this local derby? Because I'm sure that most of the players there would probably have friends playing in Adelaide City.
Yeah, look, it's I suppose it is a big game for the local supporters, in that it's, as you said, the two biggest clubs that have been part of South Australian football. We've focused a little bit on it this week at training, but as I said, we want to do well because the club has done exceptionally well in the Australian Cup. It's important that we do well, but it's also important that we build for the start of the A-League. So and we know it's going to be a tough game, and we saw that over the weekend with one of the A-League top clubs being knocked out by one of the NPL teams in New South Wales. So we know that if we don't do our things right, that we'll be in for a difficult night, because they're a very good side, Adelaide City.
Absolutely. And they've just come off the winning the premiership and on their way to hopefully making the grand final, and they just won the local cup as well. So they're on a winning streak at the moment. But current players in your team that played for Adelaide City, most recently Lockie Bart and also Kasumovic, but also you got Gauchi, who has played some time at Adelaide City. Are you using those two players for a bit of intel on some of the players at Adelaide City?
No, I haven't really spoke to any of the players about Adelaide City. As I said, I've spoke to Damian Mori about them, and I suppose I'm fortunate enough that I know and have coached a lot of those young players at Adelaide City in their younger days, so I know their players very well. As I say, we've focused a little bit on how they play and what we expect from them, but at the end of the day, we are the professional team, and we have to be professional in the way that we go about it and do our job. And I'm sure if we turn up on the night and play to our best, that we should be able to get the result.
So when it comes to the Australia Cup, it's only been around for 8 years. You guys have got the 3 cups already. You haven't won one yourself yet, but is this something you want to do, win the Australia Cup now as a coach? Most
definitely. It doesn't matter if you're a coach or a player. You want to have success, and to have success, you have to win things, and that's no different. We would love to win the Australia Cup this year. As you say, the club has a great history in it, and that's one of the goals that you set yourself as a player and as a coach at the beginning of every season is to win everything that you can. And this is a stepping stone for us, and building platform for us into the season, because we want to go and win this tournament and then take that good form on into the next A-League season.
Absolutely. Well, as a Reds fan, I would love to see Adelaide United win, but as a local fan, I'm torn. I would love to see Adelaide City progress as well. So it's going to be a huge game. But before I let you go as well, a lot of players that have played for both teams, it's actually a huge a game, obviously, for local football, because there's a whole heap of players. And throughout the week, Adelaide United on Twitter have been posting a lot of players that have played for both clubs. And Lucas Pantelis, Aurelio Vidmar, Valkanis, Marcos Flores, Travis Dodd, there's heaps of them. And even if you go to the women's side as well, there's Dylan Holmes, Matilda McNamara have all played for both Adelaide United and Adelaide City over the course of the years. But what's one of your favourite players that you've seen, watch, or played with, or alongside, that have played for both clubs?
Look, I suppose that's credit to Adelaide City that they're such a strong club in both men's and women's football, that they've provided a pathway for their players up into the professional football. I suppose at the moment I'd have to say Lockie Barr. He's done it the hard way, and he had an exceptional year with Adelaide City, and I think his first year in the A-League last year was excellent, and he needs to build on that and have another excellent year this year. He's been very good for the club since he's crossed over, and I hope to see him build on what he did last year for the club. Absolutely.
Well, looking forward to seeing him. Can you give us any intel of were you going to see him starting for that game?
Yeah, most definitely. Lockie, as I said, he had a great season for us last year, and credit to him. And he's working extremely hard so far in pre-season, and he's looking forward to go, as you said, play against his old team and doing well.
Oh, that's going to be good. Hopefully that brings an extra spark to Adelaide United against Adelaide City. A big game, and there's a lot of people from both sides are looking forward to this clash. But before we let you go, Carl, and get ready for the big clash, I've got to ask you the kick and the questions, which I ask with every single guest I have on here. A bit of fun to end off the interview. First of all, who would you love to kick it with on the park? Anyone in the world, any player that you haven't had a chance to, that you would love to kick it with on the park?
Yeah, that's a good question. I suppose over the history of football, I'd say in my time growing up, I'd say Maradona was the icon of football in my time. So I was fortunate enough to play against him, but it would have been sensational to play with him. He could just do everything with the ball, couldn't he?
Oh, he could. What was it like playing against a player like Maradona?
Yeah, well, he's just that players like him just have an aura about them, don't they? And I can remember, other players like Eric Cantona, and that when you just come up against them, you're a little bit starstruck, because they just, as I say, they have this aura about them, the way they carry themselves and the way that they play football.
Did it ever throw you off your game a little bit, knowing that there's one of the biggest footballers on the other side?
No, not really. I suppose it just it stirs you on to try and be better, because you're going to have to be at your best to actually get a half a chance.
Yeah, nice. Oh, that's bloody awesome. I love that. The second one of this, the kicking the questions, is a fun one as well. Who would you love to kick it with on a Saturday night and watch some football with on the couch, relax with it? Someone locally and someone international.
Yeah, look, I say Damian Mori is a very good friend of mine. We do, watch games together. So that's a fairly easy one.
Yep.
And I suppose internationally, it'd be great to sit with someone, like an Edge Postecoglou or Guardiola or Klopp, someone like that, and just see what they see in games.
Oh, that'll be good. And I'm sure Damian Mori will be a bit of a laugh on a Saturday night.
Yeah. Once you get a red wine into him, he opens up a little bit more.
Because he comes across as a serious guy. What's he actually like when you hang out with him on a Saturday night watching football?
As say, he has two sides, Damien. When he's away from football and work, and that he's quite a funny guy and quite relaxed.
Oh, nice. I love him as a footballer and as a coach as well. So it'll be good to see you guys hanging out with him on a Saturday night. I love these questions because it also shows a different side to my guests as well, mate. Thank you so much for joining me, Carl. It's good to get a little insight little bit of a bonus episode with an insight to your career at Adelaide City and Adelaide United ahead of this big clash. All the best for the Australia Cup round of 16 clash against Adelaide City, and hopefully you do Adelaide United fans proud, and also all the Adelaide City fans get to watch you again on the bench for Adelaide United.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Absolute pleasure. That was the coach of Adelaide United, Carl Veart. Make sure you subscribe to Kicking It Local wherever you get your podcasts so you can get a taste of the SA football community. Plus, follow at Kicking It Local SA on Instagram and Twitter so you don't miss any of the action. See you soon.